Hi, I'm Paul Kyogan from GK Tuition, and in this video I want to talk to you about logs. Now the question I've chosen to go through is 2016 Paper 1 Question 4 Part B. In this question we're told that log of 2 to the base a is equal to p, and that log of 3 to the base a is equal to q. We're then given the log of 8 over 3 to the base a. We're asked to write it in terms of p and in terms of q. Now, I think a lot of students tend to be intimidated by these questions, and I want you to just recognize that there's only a couple of rules of logs that we need to use to simplify this. So once you recognize its logs, you should go straight to page 21 in your log tables. And if you go to the middle column on page 21, the three main rules of logs are in the middle column on page 21. And those three rules of logs are going to allow us to complete this entire question. Now there's one other important rule of logs that actually doesn't come up here, and it's on the bottom right hand corner of that page. And it's the one that allows me to change the base. I don't need to worry about changing my base in this case because my base is a for all of my logs. So let's just work our way through this. I need to rewrite the log of 8 over 3 to the base a in terms of p and in terms of q. In order to get rid of my fraction here, I'm going to use my second rule of logs. So my second rule of logs allows me to rewrite this as the log of 8 to the base a minus the log of 3 to the base a. So clearly now I'm happy enough, my log 3 to the base a, that's just a q, so I'm happy enough with that. And 8 is a multiple of 2, so I need to try and rewrite this in this form. So instead of an 8, I can put in 2 to the power of 3. So I can rewrite my first term as the log of 2 cubed to the base a. And instead of log 3 to the base a, I can sub in q. Now it's this step here that I think students could make a mistake. You cannot sub this in now. You can't sub in p now. I think a lot of people's inclination would be to sub in, right, of log 2 to the base a, this is p cubed. But you can't sub in for p until you get rid of your power. So now what we need to use is our third rule of logs. The third rule of logs says that if I have log of something to a power, I can just bring the power in front. So I could rewrite this as 3 times the log of 2 to the base a minus q. And now I can just sub straight in. So now I can sub in for my p. So instead of log 2 to the base a, I can just put in a p. Which means that my final answer is 3p minus q. So the log of 8 over 3 to the base a in terms of p and q is 3p minus q. Okay, so the next part of this question is largely similar, although it's a little bit trickier. So clearly again, to get rid of my fraction, I can use my second rule of logs. So I can rewrite this as the log of 9a squared to the base a minus the log of 16 to the base a. 16 is a multiple of 2, so clearly I want to rewrite this as 2 to the power of something. 9 is a multiple of 3, so clearly I want to get this in terms of q. Now, it's the first term here that obviously poses all the problems. Your inclination might be to bring the power in front here, that it's 9a squared, so you bring your power in front. But you can't do that because it's not 9a to be squared. If it was the whole thing to be squared, I could just bring my power in front and get rid of the power. But in this case, it's just 9 multiplied by a squared. So if it's written like this, it's just 9 multiplied by a squared, as opposed to 9 squared a squared. So I want to rewrite this so the whole thing is to be squared. So I can rewrite this as the log of 3a to be squared. Because now it's 3 to be squared and a to be squared, and in the next line I'm going to be able to bring my power in front. Instead of 16, I can write 16 as 2 to the power of 4. So this term becomes the log of 2 to the power of 4 to the base a. And now I can use my third rule of logs to simplify both of these and get rid of my powers. So if I bring the power in front, it becomes 2 times the log of 3a to the base a minus 4 times the log of 2 to the base a. Now you'll notice I'm happy enough with this. The log of 2 to the base a is just a p. So I'm going to be able to just sub in for that. But I have a 3a here and I want to have just a 3. So I need to be able to split up the 3 and the a. So I want you to recognize that this is 3 multiplied by a. So in order to split this up, I can use my first rule of logs. So let's leave the 2 outside it for the moment. And if I split up the log of 3a to the base a, it becomes the log of 3 to the base a plus the log of a to the base a. So I've just used my first rule of logs to split it up. And I can rewrite this as, instead of log 2 to the base a, I can just sub in a p, so it becomes minus 4p. So let's continue this one up here. So now I can just sub in. So we've still got a 2 outside. Instead of log 3 to the base a, I can just sub in a q. And the log of a to the base a is just 1. Because I have the same base and the same number here, it's just a 1. So the log of a to the base a is just 1. So my bracket becomes q plus 1, and then I've got minus 4p. So now I can multiply out my bracket. 2 by q gives me 2q, 2 by 1 gives me 2, and then I've just got a minus 4p at the end. So my final answer here, the log of 9a squared over 16 to the base a is 2q plus 2 minus 4p. So just I want you to be aware, for those logs questions, there's actually a very limited number of rules that we can use. Really, those 3 rules and then changing the base. If you're comfortable with all of those, you should be able to finish any of these questions. I think there's a good few examples of that in the sample papers at the end of the exam papers. So when you've watched this video, try and find another one in your sample papers and see if you can solve it. So again, I hope the video made sense. If anyone has any questions, just send me an email or let me know in class and I'll try and explain it differently.